Yes, we are ready to go.
Mm-hmm. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Friday workshop. So this one is all about how we introduce new features, how we announce new features, how we communicate it. So in this one, I am hoping to look forward to a lot of feedback from stakeholders, how you perceive that we do things and see what we can improve. So I'm not planning on saying very much at all. Of course, I have one or two ideas, but I will leave the stage to those that we provide features to.
Yeah, perfect. That's my turn now. I want to say something about feature announcement, and there is a reason for this, as you all might know. Last week on Thursday, a feature was released which impacted everybody who is using openQA, be it the open SUSE community, be it Tumbleweed, be it less product QA, be it maintenance QA. And it was a change of the needle match percentage. So I describe it. I and others, Heiko, for example, who is here on the call, were not very happy about the communication. I was told that I have seen this when I double checked it Friday, when I learned about this new feature that got live on Thursday last week. So I have checked what people told me. So the feature has been around. It was discussed. People who are following GitLab, GitHub messages knew about it. Others who don't do this didn't know about it. But nevertheless, even when people were aware of it, the real change was not announced. On Thursday, nobody told even the people who knew about this new feature that we go live now, at least to what I have learned. I myself was not aware of this. Heiko was not aware of this. James was not aware of this. Maybe he's here, maybe not. Maintenance coordination was not aware of this. Release management was kind of out because they have no critical product at the moment. So pretty please, I would really ask, I don't know, the tools team, maybe the tools team in general, let us know upfront if you do changes like this. And upfront does not mean, hey, in half an hour we go live or we went live. Upfront means maybe checking, is it a good time of the week? Is it a good time in the process, in the schedule or whatever? I mean, I see we from product QA were not hit because we don't have a product, so we were fine. And this was considered by some product QE responsible people, and for maintenance, it's ongoing. I guess for maintenance, it's more or less critical every day, every week, but at least telling people would have been nice. So my proposal is, if we have critical feature changes like this, can we have a defined workflow or something like this? That would be my proposal, my request to the round. Everybody can comment here. Maybe we have something and I'm not part of the communication process. And if not, I'm also willing to write something down and say what's critical. I mean, if it affects OpenSUSE less than maintenance, then it's definitely a critical feature.
Yeah.
So that's my statement of the last week. And
thank you. I think it's a good example.
Yeah.
It's a good example of seeing where, well, maybe we can improve something. What I would like to do is, for that example, share what was it, as you mentioned, that some things were visible. So, and I'm sure there are different communication channels that work for different people, and we should look for multiple options what to do. So the change as visible on GitHub was this one. What's interesting? Well, okay, so that was created by Kulo on March 12th, based on a longer discussions with other people regarding the needle matching algorithm and how it should work. And actually, what I like about the, let's say, the technical information that is presented here is that, for example, I think someone asked, like, can we have screenshots to show how it would look like? And then, and here we have them. So for someone needing to understand the actual change, what difference does it make, we see it in here. It was, the pull request was open for a longer time since March 12th. And also I wanted to give it, like, Marius immediately decided, like, okay, this is not ready. We don't want to have that merged immediately because we already saw that, okay, this can have a bigger impact. So we wanted to give it some time, and I think it was that was a good discussion. What had been done is that sometime later, I'm scrolling down to follow the time flow. This was on March 13. On March 15, I highlighted a GitHub group which is called OS Audience Test Maintainer. This is the main group of people that are the maintainers of the main test distribution, OS Audience Tests for openSUSE. As you can see here, it has, I think, 49 members. So there's actually a rather big group. And I think all the SUSE QE squads, they are well represented within that group. And some people have reacted. For example, here we had comment like, it looks okay. Of course, we can overlook the impact and say, like, I don't see anything wrong. Of course, it could be a bigger impact than we would see here. I also asked more contributors over other channels to say that they are fine with the change in general and accept a slight breakage in case of need to update needles. Before accepting, I would appreciate a full run of a common openSUSE openQA test for verification. Then, for example, Sergio showed tests where we are likely running into problems. And then we regarded LemonSUSE did, for example, for migration, he did explicit testing. I think he also prepared needles for that. And then what else? Yeah, we gave it, let's say, nearly a month, and then Marius asked, like, okay, what about the needles for openSUSE? And then 069 Santiago Zarate, 11 days ago, he also pinged test maintainers like again, and he approved, and others, which are also from, let's say, the lead test maintainers group, that it's okay. And then I merged the outstanding needles regarding the migration tests, but there had been no further changes prepared in before. So at that point, to me, it was clear. Well, okay. So Santiago argued that now is a good time to merge because leap and slash have been released, and we have seen that there had been no impact on the product validation tests, but mainly maintenance test for any upcoming version like sleeve 15 as before. It could still be that there would be some needle changes still needed in the future, but likely also for other reasons they are still needed. And I said it would be true if people would run tests soon after we merge this PR, which had only been done for maintenance tests. And well, okay, so I decided then there's sooner or later we need to accept the change. And then I merged it 9 days ago. This was June 9th. Now, at this point, it's not deployed yet. Okay, but then next time when it was deployed was on a Friday, when it was automatically deployed. And what we do when we automatically deploy, we send an email to the mailing list openQA SUSE.de. Everyone on that mailing list can receive that information of update listing the changes within OS Audience.
Okay.
One problem I see here is that this is something which I also did not pay attention to, is that the pull request has a good title, but the git commit titles, they are not that good because it says no longer convert to 16 colors. It doesn't say breaking change for needle matching algorithm. So this is certainly a point of something that well, a reminder that we should take a look for proper Git commit messages. Okay, first I would like to give the voice to Heiko, if you don't mind. Heiko, you raised your hand. Heiko, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Oliver. What you just did, that was what I was wanted to ask for, basically having an analysis after the fact, what happens and how this happened, like a timeline. I don't want to start blaming anybody. If then I would as well have to blame myself of not following the openQA discussion, or at least the announcement mailing lists. So from my perspective, whatever you identify during the tool development discussion, I think it's basically your area of responsibility to identify risky bits. And then from that, if you think there's a bigger impact, start basically a communication upwards, including project managers, that you might cause an impact. So that means that whatever might go wrong. So you, I mean, everybody, even a team, could misjudge a situation and not foresee the impact. I mean, that's totally allowed from my point of view. So if that happens, it happens. But my request is basically, especially to the tools development team, if you see such changes coming and you're unsure about the impact, don't hesitate and post it even to higher levels of basically the organization, like including project managers, maybe to QA-team, just to be sure that you get the attention. Because I don't want the tools team to be fully responsible of all the impacts that you might cause. I mean, that would be unfair, because you focus also on tool development, but you have the right to ask for support from the project managers to assess the impact and find some mitigations.
Absolutely, of course.
Whatever that might be in terms of mitigations.
Yeah, thank you. Marita?
I want to say something about this announcement mailing list email. First of all, this email comes out after the change was applied. Second one, you're totally right. When I was informed about the change by Dominik Neuenberger, by the way, I checked this email, I couldn't see any announcement, and I asked Dominik Neuenberger if he is aware, if he has seen the announcement. He said, no, it's just an information, it is sent out when the change is applied in the mail. So definitely, this email is not an announcement before it happens. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, as you correctly said, it doesn't say anything notable to me, even when I double checked it later, because I thought of this email. For me, it was not visible. Yeah, and the second thing is, I'm with Heiko here, and you, if I look at the pull request that you have presented, it's super underestimated what the impact was, because even Dominik Neuenberger, he was re-needling, I think 400 needles all Thursday, all Friday. He was busy with re-needling, and that's why he kind of told me Friday morning, watch out, you will have problems Friday. So if you think, let's go for openSUSE first or something like this, I mean, even the openSUSE first run showed that you underestimated the effort. So when you say now, let's go for openSUSE first and then check it, you did it, but you didn't pay attention to it. Just saying, but I'm with Heiko here more. I mean, it's not the first set that we have seen this, and always we keep saying, let's talk about this first, let's think about the risks. Yeah, just repeat, let's try to be better and not underestimate it, and talk about it first. Let project managers know, so that we can also inform maintenance coordination. I mean, product QE was fine. Santiago was correct there. Release managers didn't complain anything, but be more verbose about it upfront before you do it, before you submit the pull request. Yeah.
Likely you are right that we underestimated the impact. Compared to other feature changes, we already considered the impact to be very high. This is why we gave it multiple months for feedback time, and we pinged all test maintainers. And as I showed you, this includes 50 people, representative of every team. So every person should know that this is coming in the future before it's being applied.
I know. I have seen this, and for example, you have mentioned Maigao, who is also here. He was prepared. He said this week we are all fine, so he was prepared.
Right.
Others like Jose, I don't know if he's here. He said, yeah, I was aware of it, we knew of it, but not today, not Friday morning. I mean, so you see, it was not a total surprise to everybody, but still. But for me, it was, and I can tell you, I am not following GitHub pull requests.
Sure.
And even the announcement email was too late and unclear for me. So I mean, yeah, if it's like this, please think about project managers as not the technical.
Okay, so in this example, how would you what suggestion do you have? Like, how could it have been worked out better?
I definitely asking upfront in Rocket Chat, asking you can use testing channel and add my name and Heiko's name there and James's name there, or write an email to QA team, but 2 days before, not half an hour before. So think about that the people who are not on GitLab who follow Rocket Chat and also email. Yeah, maybe old fashioned, but yeah. GitLab, I don't follow that.
Right. So one specific thing that you mentioned is that we should write an email to QA team. We have a separate mailing list, openQA, SUSE QE, because not everything should be around openQA, and I feel like we are using the generic department mailing list for openQA specific thing. If you consider that nobody minds, then we can also do that for exceptional cases.
I disagree with you here. Pulling the plug for the automation infrastructure is not an openQA thing.
Okay.
Maintenance coordination was blocked for, well, maintenance testing was blocked for 2 days. That's not an openQA tooling issue.
Sure.
That's something that affects not even the QE department, but also the related stakeholders who should be informed. Maybe we have a delay of maintenance testing for 2 days or something like this. I mean, even maintenance coordination should have been informed upfront. For this specific case, for others which are not so critical, yeah, I agree with you. But yeah, but as we said already, risk was also underestimated, like many times. I've seen this several times now. Not very often, occasionally, yeah, but yeah. I don't know how to do a better risk estimation, but yeah, if you do changing, that needs a lot of reading. That's always
there is one. Okay, let's Michael, you go.
Yeah, thanks. So starting with the idea that at some point some updates, some changes will break things. That's something that will happen in any company, in any project. I think the only thing I could add here from my point of view as a reviewer for maintenance is that I could have recognized better the impact and immediately asked for a revert that could have helped at the very beginning.
Yes.
One issue that happened to us in parallel was that on Monday, when I started my weekly shifts, there was no runs on openQA maintenance because the bot scheduler was stuck, and the first run were on Tuesday, so we also lost 1 day there and the full weekend. So we started to see the issue on Tuesday, and then took a day or so to start fixing things and recognize that it was difficult to catch up. So maybe one thing, at least from my point of view as a learning thing, is that if things look bad enough, let's just think, okay, stop, propose to revert, and try again next time.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just wanted to mention that I try to follow communication and to get feelings or opinions about the impact. And what I was seeing, that a bit of discussion going on about that, but not too much. And I never saw anyone mentioning a suggestion to revert a change. In general, we are set up to revert changes, and you're all welcome to suggest reverting a change. In general, we don't have a problem with reverting changes. Here, even I would consider the impact of reverting minimal, because if we would revert to the old needle matching algorithm, all new needles that you have created already for the new change, they are not lost. They're already prepared. Okay, so we would revert, we would run with the old, more forgiving needle matching algorithm with the old needles, which are likely still in place because people commonly do not delete them immediately. And then we can take another approach of preparing properly. Okay, Jose.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so and some addition as well for further improving the communication or the how to act on this is that it would be nice to communicate people how to proceed with this. Like, should we create new needles? Should we create or update existing ones with a lower match level? I mean, I had a conversation with Cool on testing, and more or less, yeah, we had this topic discussed, but I think people were just creating new needles, and that could impact the the workflow and how everything is tested, because yeah, that goes lower now because we have plenty of more needles. And yeah, I mean, maybe it's easier to create new needle instead of updating a new one, but maybe it's worse for the performance, right? And that would be nice to be communicated as well, to see how to
Right.
act on this.
Yeah, you see about the needle creation, I think this is already an approach that can allow to run, something like backward compatible way for changes. And this goes not only for tooling backend changes, but also product changes. Let's assume that the product changes and the UI changes, you create new needles, but you keep the old one. Let's assume that the product visual changes get reverted because of the decision of, for similar reason, too high impact. Then you still have the old needles in place. And Jose, I think also you try to clean out like really old needles as a follow-up, right? Which is appreciated. But again, by keeping, let's say, at least keeping needles for some months, this is how we are allowed to run that in parallel.
Yeah, that's what also Kulo said. So we keep it for 1 month at least, and then we probably do some cleanup if some of them are not used anymore, because yeah, they will not be used.
You mentioned that the suggestion wasn't clear that you would need to create new needles or something, right?
Yeah, so maybe if in some change like this in the future, if we communicated via email or any broader communication that reach everyone.
Right.
So yeah, it would be also nice to include how to proceed with this.
I know it's hard to remember, but maybe you do recall, or maybe you have checked. Have you received the notice on March 15 when I pinged you in GitHub, and the same this 11 days ago when 469 again pinged all test maintainers in GitHub?
Yeah, I got that notification, but I probably didn't pay enough attention to that. And that's my fault.
Okay, well, but it can happen. I mean, some people don't know, like receiving a message here, don't know, does it have impact on there? And if, I don't know, there would be a chat highlight message, would that have worked better, or could it have failed in the same way? Like if we have pinged you in chat, also if you have like received a here mention in chat, would you have then seen that as more explicit?
Yeah, I mean, email to emailing list with this kind of things, or impact, and also what is the way to proceed. That would be, I mean, at least, yeah. Maybe since I was not paying a lot of attention to that, maybe for others would also help. PMs and other people who
Yeah.
were not aware. That will
Okay,
help.
thank you. The next in row is IOB. Yanis?
Hey, hi. First of all, I want to say I'm just against the reverse of the changes on when something is merged on the master, because then it seems looks like something we did something wrong in the steps to in the review process so the defense is CI and verifications runs. I will expect these breaking changes to run for some time in development branch something on openQA and make sure people confident that you can go on, right?
Sorry, I did not really understand that.
Like you have a breaking change and it's from March.
Yes.
It should be there should be some test scheduled jobs on development group or something to run for a long time.
Right.
To make
There had been jobs running not for a long time, but repeatedly, and this wasn't problematic. What we don't have is, openQA SUSE is like a SUSE internal instance, so we don't run tests on that internally for an upcoming auto change. So maybe you're suggesting that we would run like new versions of openQA or audience against the SLE test distribution, right?
exactly, and avoid set what's because the reverse of the change usually it's not good indication of the process, right?
Okay, I see what you mean. Well,
one this and the other is the verifications runs, because
yeah, so there was nothing wrong with the pull requests, so of course
exactly.
there would be no reason to revert it, let's say, from the point of does it break OS audience or openQA itself? No, it doesn't. Everything worked as expected, of course, with the expected change in behavior. But still, it would be okay to have that change reverted when too many users are impacted in a foreseeable way, but when the change was, let's say, too rapid, and then to give people more time, I would say it would have been okay to revert that, even though change itself was completely fine.
Yeah, but maybe we can check what we can do better, because for me, when something is met, it should be everything fine. It should never be you have a code review, you have CI, you have to fight defenses to not reach this point.
Yeah, but still the impact on the users is what we consider as well. So okay, but yeah, I get the idea. Thank you. Phoenix.
I think Marita was before me.
Oh, okay, then Marita.
No, I just wanted to comment on your question. Should we add the information to Rocket Chat or email?
Yeah.
From my long experience in QA, I say both.
Yeah, of course.
Have to think, and I have to repeat this because this comes up again and again. We are a big group. We are spread over several time zones. You cannot expect that everybody is reading all the Rocket Chat comments that have popped up overnight. So if there's something important, it's always Rocket Chat and email, because it's a time shift. Many messages, people are offline overnight, coming back in the morning. They don't read 50 comments in Rocket Chat. So always have to keep this in mind. If it's important, email and Rocket Chat. And there are people who do not read emails. It seems they ignore emails. They are on Rocket Chat. So always both.
Yeah, I agree. Right. In that case, there had been no explicit email on top. There was a mention on Rocket Chat, and there was mentions in GitHub. But considering the discussions, I think at some point another mention in chat would have been useful. But yeah, but this is actually a suggestion I would give to everybody. Don't wait for a member of the tools team to understand from you what you see as impact, because you can I didn't understand it until some days later that you see the impact as bigger. Okay, Anton?
Felix was before me.
Yes, indeed. Hello, everyone. I would have three things to add here. It's the first thing, it was already mentioned, but it would be really highly appreciated if destructive changes or changes that can be considered destructive would be only merged at the beginning of the week. So at the end of the week, this is causing sometimes really some stress for the developers that try to fix the things. So doing this at the beginning of the week would be really good. Another thing, it would be more of a suggestions that would perhaps help the developers only, not the managers, would be we could do something like announcement banners for destructive changes. I put an example link in here, and if, for instance, on OSD, we would implement something like this, at least I think most of the reviewers would see this every day. And if this is a reminder that pops up on OSD, like every time such a change is planned, then this could increase the awareness of those things. But it's only a suggestion there.
Yeah. Okay.
And the third thing, I know how difficult this is, but perhaps having something like a staging area would be very beneficial for those kind of things. That changes like this are not immediately pushed to the productive environment, but we are having a staging area. And this would be also beneficial for other things that we do there. Know how difficult this is. It's just, I'm pointing once again the finger at it. Thank you.
Yeah. Anton?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment my view on this. So from what how I see this whole situation, that actually the engineering, at least from what I heard in this meeting and what you Oli just described about this ticket, engineering was aware about the issue. Yes, project management was not aware about it, but engineering mainly was aware. The main problem and the only problem is that somehow majority of people didn't realize the impact. So it's not about that we was not informed, because I personally was informed, and Jose also mentioned that he after all he gets this message, but he just didn't realize about the majority. So the main problem is not that message was not sent, message was sent, but the problem is that somehow for such a case we should have some special protocol how to really take attention of the people to this message.
Okay, good. Thank you. Marita?
Did I raise my hand? No, I have nothing to say.
Sorry. There's Marius. Sorry, different M.
Yes. Just a question. Would it have helped if we made the feature configurable, like configurable?
Marius, this is a very good question. I would like to come to that topic about feature switches and configuration afterwards. Good point.
Okay, if it's already a point anyways, I'm silent.
No, come back with that. But first I would like to hear from Michael.
Yeah, just wanted to add to the comment from Felix about the staging area. I think I mentioned that already. I have experience from a completely different topic, but I like the idea of every new change is tested on your machine. Then it goes to a staging area where every other people's change is tested, and then it goes on production. Right now, changes of tests code or openQA code, it's tested on your local machine, but then mostly it goes into production. So I think it would be really nice to have some smaller copy of OSD where stuff is tested before going to the real OSD in production. I understand it's difficult because we have the code of openQA and tests that is being changed and the updates that continues to come. So we would have to pick something like as a version of SLE, a certain kind of updates which we know that are green, and then keep them and then change it every month or so. So having a stable income of, let's say, images to test and updates that we know that's kind of mostly work. And then we test the code of the testing and openQA. And then we go to production. So have something like a dummy images that are already good enough, kind of old, and then we go to production where we test. So we test the tests.
Good.
That's the point.
So one clarification regarding the different steps of testing. What we have is a test suite internal to each project, like OS Audience and openQA, that is getting better and better. And also OS Audience and openQA, they are tested together on various steps within the GitHub projects and also within OBS. After all of these tests conclude successfully, and this includes something like needle checking, of course, okay? Then the next night, openQA OpenSUSE.org is deployed with that. And if that runs successfully for, let's say, some hours or for one day, then automatically openQA SUSE is automatically deployed, but only if openQA OpenSUSE.org is also seen as green or as stable. And what we look for, what you look out for there is not any ratio of failed tests, because tests could fail because there's a tumbleweed build and something like this, and we don't have any way right now of seeing tests fail because there's a new tumbleweed build, or because of our changes, or because needle changed, or because someone changed the tests. What we do realize, if, let's say, test code itself doesn't compile anymore, or problems in the logic itself. And the challenge with the staging area, I'm not denying that idea, and of course it had been brought up in before, and yes, there are longer running, low priority plans to do that. There had been plans to do that, but the real challenge is when you're talking about openQA SUSE, which is the main work area for most of you, you each have your own specific view on that. One is talking about container tests on product validation. The other one is talking about SLE maintenance tests. The third one is about kernel LTP tests. And finding that right subset of each of that and being able to find a stable subset and also at best an automatic review process is really the tricky part here. So that subset would be able to finish the test without overloading the infrastructure by completely having a 1-1 duplicate, but still being able to give us automatic feedback. I would still like to come back to the idea from Marius, but so last one in this block of topic, Anton.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the last comment regarding staging environment. I tend to disagree. I think that it's like we start speaking about different development flows, and openQA currently is more like a rolling release. And yeah, having a staging environment is another option, but I want to say that this certain problem should not be the reason why we get to staging environment. Because this certain problem can also happen when you have staging environment, because there is still plenty of options how you can miss it. So yes, staging environment might be a good idea, but not because we had this problem, but just because team want to change their way of working.
Okay, good. So Marius.
About the staging environment, we have actually a staging environment for our development, and we technically could use it before we merge a pull request. The problem there is nobody uses it. So if you create a staging environment, of course, it's actually important that people are using it actively. it would basically an environment to make it easier to prepare for changes, but people need to use it. And I think that is also kind of a challenge. For instance, if your special worker isn't there, you won't use it and so on. So maybe, yeah, I mean, we will go on with the other idea of making it a configurable feature. So maybe that's also more interesting than the staging.
Right. So for this topic, in general, I also prefer, and this is what I'm trying to do when we implement new features which are potentially having a bigger impact, or introducing a new risky area, that we have a feature switch for that. And we already had that in the past, and for multiple things. Here, that should have been an option as well. So I thought about that, and yeah, I'm sorry, I did not follow up with that idea. We should have, okay? So we should have made that configurable. Making that configurable would make it easier for people to try it out, because, you know, based on individual tests, you could have triggered tests and then select a switch to say new or old matching algorithm. And then you could try it out immediately in the very same environment that you're normally used to using. But that also comes with a catch. We already have feature switches in place, and there are cases where we still run, let's say, old behavior since 3 years or longer, and still not everybody has followed up with getting rid of the old behavior. So eventually we would also likely run into new problems again, because the old way is then finally not supported anymore. So then latest at that time, it will make a change. One specific example that I have in mind is, with openQA, we can select individual machines. Yeah, a machine like 64-bit and AH64 and such. And there, for example, the normal 64-bit machine can be configured to run a certain graphics adapter that is simulated. And some years ago, in the old times, the Cirrus VGA graphics adapter was the default. We have changed that within OS Audience already to have an updated default, because upstream QEMU changed, and also the old Cirrus adapter makes problem with Wayland and some other accelerated graphics. So this is why we have an updated default. However, I think as of now, most of the tests within openQA CZE still run with the explicit workaround of having the Cirrus graphics adapter. I don't know if the corresponding tickets are still open or if you have resolved them, but I just know that these tests still run. So this is the problem with feature switches, when people don't update, even not gradually over time, to switch to the new one. Okay. Marius?
Yes. Actually, I wanted to say, okay, before we remove a feature completely, we change the default of a feature switch. But now you actually had an example where not even changing the default would motivate people to update. But I think it depends also from feature to feature. How easy is it to update? And of course, also, if people see a benefit in it, they are more likely to update. So I'm not sure what it would like be in this feature, but yeah, that's also maybe not always the case. Maybe if the feature is good enough, people will actually migrate.
Of course, that depends on if it provides a benefit for your specific group big enough, then you want that to be migrated earlier. This is why I think in Tumbleweed we don't have that problem anymore, because, you know, the Tumbleweeds tests are benefiting from the new standard, and maybe sleep tests are not yet benefiting enough. Right. So the suggestion, of course, is correct when you want to update the default. Thank you, Michael. Then first you select the new behavior to be there, and you can select it explicitly with a switch. Then you turn it around and say you switch the default, but you still keep a switch to switch back to the old behavior if you need that. And then you can remove the switch.
And at some point, one could also add warnings that this feature, which is currently enabled, is deprecated somehow
you make the
more
warning
aggressive.
more and more aggressive over time until it sinks in. So we have a recent example. I don't want to share the secret which component we declared as deprecated now. Maybe some of you will see that over time, but it's also likely less critical. Michael.
Yeah, I would love this idea of switches also in a similar concept to tests, because we have the same issue, staging or not, about introducing new tests that maybe don't work like they worked on our machine. So to not disrupt the automatical approval and the reviewer's job, would be nice to introduce a test with a switch. Ignore. I will only notify the developer if it fails, but I don't break anything. And then I enable it later. Some kind of feature flags on tests as well.
Yeah, so that sounds a bit like staging within the same set of tests, but on a per test basis, where you would duplicate all the tests and have all the tests running in the old way as the production instance and in the new way as the testing out development version, right?
Maybe. I was thinking mostly on new tests that the biggest issue, but also on big changes, you could duplicate the test with a feature as switched off and try it out, and then finally start using it. Yeah. And also remove some tests that are failing, of course, without unscheduling them while you're working on it.
Yes.
Yeah, so with the points that were made before about better announcement and, for instance, making sure that the emails are easier to understand for most people, maybe as we're looking into how we do that in the future, we can also make feature switches a more explicit part of that. And for example, announce as a reminder, this is either a new feature switch or something that already exists, and people should keep in mind to update that, to make this a bit clearer for people to see, okay, we're still using this, and at some point in time, we need to get rid of this as well.
Yeah, you're right. I guess in general, the majority of all our changes work without needing any announcement and are designed to work without announcement, and they are designed to be not breaking. So it's for me, for example, it's preferable, let's say, if there's a new feature in the UI, then it's like a new button, but there's a new button appearing, and if you don't see that button for some time, fine, there's nothing lost, okay, and it shouldn't break anything. So this is the best case, because then you can take all the time that you need to learn about that new feature, and then maybe we present it in a workshop session like here. Maybe we can read about that in a changelog, and maybe some blog article where we say, like, have you seen that new button? It was there already for 3 months, but it shouldn't break anything. So that should be the default, and only the exceptional cases are the ones where we need that more explicit announcement. Wei Gao.
Yes, Oliver. You know we have a branch script to run the PR, right, for the test cases.
Yep.
So is there possible to create another script to run the OS auto-inst branch? Is that possible?
Yes, that's a good point. Actually, it is possible to run a custom OS audience version. For example, we could have we can configure tests with a test variable to say run this specific command line for OS audience, and the command line could, for example, be Podman or Docker running a container image, and that container image could be one that we built from a custom pull request of OS audience. So that is possible, and every operator in openQA can use that feature. It will have limitations on app armor controlled workers, but in general it's possible. Yeah.
Yes, I think if this kind of feature is available, I think to validate the OS auto-inst feature is more easy, and every customer, every client, such as each team, can very easy to do some quick validate and give you feedback, right?
Right.
Yep. Thanks.
Good that you bring that up. Thank you. Okay, so I will create a ticket about that for our team to capture the lessons learned. I have one final question that I'm interested in regarding this needle matching algorithm change. When I merged that merge request 9 days ago, I already told you that I gave it me personally, I wanted to wait some time. And then Marius has asked 18 days ago, like, this PR has somehow been forgotten, now some time passed. Should we merge it now? And then I decided, like, yeah, okay, it's about time. We gave enough time. Who at this time has thought to him or herself, like, oh, that was like too early, or this will cause a lot of breakage? No, I didn't foresee that, but be honest, who at this point has already foreseen the problems? Rita?
I mean, I to be super positive, I'm responsible for product QA. Product QA was not hit because we don't have SP4 and we are done with SP3 Elite. So if you would have asked me and told me upfront, okay, I would have said, yeah, for my area of responsibility, it's totally fine to do it this week.
It was the right time. Yeah.
And that was also what Santiago said in where you showed here. For the impact, I would say, when I have seen what you have done, it was totally clear to me that we are doomed. I have seen this. I mean, let's go half a year back. Release managers changed the font, and they thought the same as you did. Yeah, changing the font a little bit here and there. They even informed Rodion at this time, and then a milestone was doomed. Okay, so for me, this was clear that this would need 2 days of free needling for maintenance mainly. Yeah, so. From experience, I've seen this now 3 times. I think changing the font, changing the graphics, or changing the needle matching.
You're right. There's one more unfortunate thing here, is that this is actually something that Kulo and me have also discussed here. He wanted to bet a carton of beer. Most of you likely just create a needle with default match ratio, meaning that by default, most of your needles are very strict, even if they don't need to be, because in certain aspects, when you don't want to check correct font rendering, your needle is created to be very strict. And whenever I create needles, I think about selecting a lower match ratio, because I say at that point I don't care if there's even a wrongly typed character, because I want to solve a completely different problem. I just need a needle as a prerequisite. So I think the impact supports me in the idea, well, to make re-needling harder, or the other way around to make changing the match rate easier. So this is what I think would have helped here, because in cases like these, when the needle match rate, the needle matching algorithm changes or the font changes, most needles should be resilient to that and don't care about it. Okay, Wei Gao? Let's skip to Phoenix.
Very good. Only a quick comment on this one. About the needles being too strictly there. This is actually a very good point, because what could help at this point to close the gap between the openQA developers and the users of openQA like me. I mean, when I started like something 1.5 years ago with openQA, I was told that the needle matching ratio that you should choose should be something like 85 or 90%. And this is something that we most of the time use there.
Yes.
And what I see there is that there is a mismatch of knowledge from the openQA developers and the users actually. And what would be really useful for this issue would be to establish something like, how are they called? The best guidelines. No, it's, there was a word for this, but I forgot it.
Best practices.
Exactly, yes. Best practices where you write those suggestions down. That would perhaps help to close those issues.
Does anybody know where the best practices for needling are currently documented?
In the repo.
Again?
In the repo.
No.
Oh.
There we have it. I wrote it in chat. It's on the openQA tests wiki, the progress project. There's a section called Needling Best Practices. I think it doesn't say consider lower match ratio. Yeah. Anna?
Yeah, hello. One thing that I would say on this is that we have also to take care of the false positives, because I have seen things like this in the past, and especially before this PR had started and with the select patterns part module, that we were passing tests with this, let's say, when we were making smaller the ratio, where it was not correct, it was false. Right. And so we were, we're validating the testing that it was passing, but it was not correct. So we have also to be careful on this side. That's
You're right. This is the reason why the default of match ratio is rather high. And I think the default is something that we don't want to change.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you all. So this went a bit different than I anticipated. Maybe Chris also different than you anticipated. But I think it was
quite happy with all of the.
I'm also very happy, and thank you all for your engagement. Let's wrap it up here. Thank you all, and I think we have not defined a topic for the next workshop yet, but it's okay. We will select one from our list of existing topics or come up with a good one. See you again next week. Until then, goodbye.